The Sophists are a group of philosophers who come into Athens in the middle and the second half of the 5th century BC, the great glory days of Athenian democracy. Sophist means teacher of wisdom. The Sophists are teachers who thrive in the atmosphere of Greek democracy. They come and they teach rhetoric and they teach philosophy, two pursuits that are appropriate for a democratic society, in which the leaders of the society wanted to train themselves and their sons in the arts of rhetoric and philosophy. The Sophists are an intellectual movement, and they would raise fundamental questions about the nature of morality and justice that have reverberated throughout the rest of human history. I'd like to introduce a few of the concepts that underlie sophistic philosophy and that would provoke the reactions of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, among others. And to do this, let's introduce a set of terms that would prove fundamental to sophist thinking. The two terms are nomos and physis, Greek words, nomos and physis. Nomos means law or custom. Physis means nature. It's where we get our word physical. It means nature. And the Athens of the 5th century was a cosmopolitan city, that it was open to external influences. Philosophers and thinkers from around the world came to Athens. And it meant that the Athenians, who were also at this time building a naval empire, came into broad cultural contact with the wider world. Now, in any human situation, multiculturalism can be uncomfortable. It can be provocative because it forces one to encounter the ideas and the beliefs and the cultural norms of another human being. The challenge of multiculturalism in the ancient Greek world is embodied in this dualism between nomos, custom or law, and physis, nature. It's a dualism that asks, what about our way of life is due simply to convention, we might say, and what is due to nature? What is objective and natural? What is inherent in the way things truly are? And what is simply our creation? What is our custom? What is our culture given to us? And it's something that, a dualism that can be invisible until one comes into contact with other cultures. But this is part of the challenge of the Sophists, is that they raise fundamentally the question of what about our social order is simply our conventional way of doing things. And this challenge is embodied in a story that's preserved in the histories of Herodotus. Herodotus is the father of history. In fact, history too is a Greek word. It means inquiry. And Herodotus comes to Athens in the glory days of Athenian democracy, where he pens his histories. And his histories are not just an account of the past, going back to the great defeat of the Persians by the Greeks, but in fact are a sort of anthropological inquiry. They're an anthropologist's account of the foreign cultures that surround the Greek world. Herodotus is as much an anthropologist, an ethnographer, as he is a historian. He loves to look at other cultures and asks about their conventions. And he tells the story of the Persian king Darius, who one day brought subjects of his empire from the far east and the far west into his court. And he brought together a set of Greeks and asked them a simple question. Would you consider eating the flesh of your dead relatives? And the Greeks recoil in horror and say that's cannibalism. It's a violation of the divine ordinances. It's an unholy act. And he brings together with these Greeks some Indians subject to his empire, the Calatians. And he asks them, would you ever consider incinerating the bodies of your dead relatives? And they say this is an absolute desecration, that it's a violation of the fundamental laws of God. And he had proven a point, because the Calatians, so Herodotus says, considered it holy to consume the flesh of their dead relatives. And the Greeks, of course, in the classical world, practice cremation. They burned the bodies and buried the bones of their relatives. And so he asked one culture, would they consider doing what this other culture considered simply normative? And it's the question itself that's quite provocative, because the Greeks suddenly, in this situation, are forced to realize that their practices, these most sacred sorts of rituals, are perhaps simply convention. That is, what is it about this that makes it right? Is it simply something we have created, or is it part of nature? Is it something about the order of the cosmos? Is it nomos, convention, or is it physis? And the way this question is posed is part of the challenge of the Sophists to traditional morality. Because if not consuming the flesh of your dead relatives is simply a convention, what else might be mere convention?